Hello, hello. In this lecture, we will talk about how, as a leader, you can help your people through change and burnout. And frankly speaking, I think this is a real test to your leadership skills. Leadership is always measured by results. But in reality, it is tested during disruption and time of change. And when you have pressure, this means that true leadership capability only becomes visible when systems are unstable, shaky, and your people, even yourself, even yourself, are under pressure. So now let's explore like a deeper question, or sometimes I think of it as a dilemma. How do effective leaders help people navigate change without breaking them or breaking themselves while still maintaining performance? Remember, I said it's about results and outcomes. So this requires balancing strategic execution with emotional intelligence, and put 100 lines under emotional intelligence and long-term stability. So let's start with exploring the nature of change. We talk a lot about change because change today is not occasional. Actually, it is constant. It's accelerating and unavoidable. This means leaders must operate in a permanent state of adaptation, if we can say this, rather than stability. When I used to speak with my father and discuss the issues of leadership, I felt that things were much more stable back in the day, more today. And organizations are changing across several dimensions. For example, structure. So we hear a lot about reorganization, changing hierarchies, changing the reporting relationships, which often disrupt power dynamics and even workflows. Also, change come across tasks and responsibilities. Changes in tasks reflect evolving customer needs, operation processes that we need to develop or change or even eliminate. This requires employees to constantly update how they work. Also, technology. Technology plays huge role as technological advancements, especially nowadays in AI, automation, Internet of Things. All these advancements increase the speed of change and require ongoing learning. Another important dimension when we talk about change is people, because most of the time change affects relationships, roles, expectations, and this forces individuals to adapt on a professional level and also on a personal level. Change also comes from real world pressures like downsizing. This creates uncertainty, emotional strain, huge, emotional strain in our people. And this often leads employees to feel insecure, overworked, and disconnected. Also, digital transformation. This became a buzzword a few years ago, but now it's it's a reality and we live it day in, day out. Digital transformation requires people and employees to constantly reskill themselves. It's not about, oh, I'm gonna acquire a new skill, or I will develop my existing skills. No, it's about creating a new skill set, and of course to adapt, which can be both intellectually demanding and also psychologically exhausting. So change is not the hardest part, but actually helping people through change to cope is the hardest part. Without effective leadership, even, you know, well designed change initiatives fail. And at the core of this failure is human resistance. So, why people resist change? People don't just resist change, they don't resist change randomly. The reactions are rooted in psychological responses. Some of these psychological responses could be predictable, and we have a huge literature and scholarship in this field. But some responses might be unpredictable. But in general terms, people resist change because they fear the loss of control. Change removes predictability and autonomy, which creates an anxiety, which in turn leads to defensive behavior. Also, disruption. Disruption interferes with routines, relationships, and the stability of the system, the established ways of working. And when this happens, discomfort increases. And of course, the most important word is uncertainty. People fear unknown outcomes, especially when risks are high, and risks they perceive risks to be greater than potential benefits. So, how people judge change? People evaluate change based on personal impact. Of course, as leaders, we hope that they see change through the lens of organizational benefit, but this is not the case. Everyone will think or evaluate change based on the personal impact on themselves. If individuals don't see how change benefits them, they will resist it. Resistance becomes rational and expected. And this is part of our organizational reality. Top management often operates at a strategic level. They may underestimate the emotional and operational impact of change. In the middle management, they experience pressure from both directions, from the top management and from the bottom tiers of employees. So they try to implement a change while managing resistance and pressure from both sides. On the other hand, employees usually feel threatened, and they respond with fear, skepticism, and most of the time some sort of withdrawal. So when this happens, it creates a disconnect between vision and reality. And effective leaders, they know how to bridge the gap through communication, empathy, and continuous alignment and realignment. So, how can we lead through change effectively? There are some rules. These are like best practices. The first one is to communicate honestly and transparently. Transparency builds trust. Transparency reduces uncertainty and anxiety, even when the message is difficult. Also, think of how to personalize the change. We need to connect change to our people, to individual roles and concerns, to make it meaningful to them. Also, we need to create a support system for our people through rewards and recognition, because recognition reinforces positive behaviors and encouraging engagement. Also, very, very important to learn to listen with patience. So, listening allows leaders to understand resistance and address underlying concerns. There are a couple of models that are mentioned in the book. I really encourage you to read the books, but let's go through these models quickly. The first model is Lewin's model. Three phases: unfreeze, change, and then refreeze. In the unfreeze phase, leaders must challenge existing mindsets. They need to prepare their people emotionally and cognitively for the change. Then the phase of change. Implementation requires communication, training, support to ensure adaptation and adoption of the change. Then refreeze. So now we have the new behaviors, the reinforced positive behaviors. So we need to reinforce these behaviors through systems, through the culture, the organizational culture, the reward system. This ensures stability. The second model is Kotter's model. It has several phases. Let's go through these quickly. The first phase is to create urgency. Without urgency, people will lack the motivation to change and to implement the change. The second phase is to build the coalition. Strong leadership teams that are able to create alignment and they have credibility among employees. Then develop a vision. We need a clear vision to provide direction and meaning. And we need to communicate this vision. Repetition ensures understanding and buy-in. So you have to repeat, you have to, not just to repeat, to live the vision. Then empower action. You need as a leader to remove all the barriers which hinder execution. You need to generate wins, but I'm not saying that you need to focus on the low-hanging fruits all the time, but early successes build momentum and confidence, so you need to create wins early in the process. Then, when the change happens, you need to sustain change, continuous effort to prevent regression. And finally, to anchor in culture. Change becomes permanent only when we embed the change in norms and values and the way we redesign our culture. Of course, there are common failures. There is a huge, research on this. But I will talk about the more important ones. Vision. When you have no vision or weak vision, or you have just a written vision. Without clarity, people cannot align their actions effectively, and you need a strong vision for this. Also, poor communication is another common failure. Miscommunication leads to confusion and resistance. A lack of transparency. Another common failure is declaring victory too early. We will create an initiative for 6 months. In many cases, you need more than that time. Premature conclusions weaken long-term change stability. So change fails not because of a failing strategy, but because of the execution and the leadership behavior. Also, attitude. Attitude is very, very important when we discuss change. Attitude is one of the most powerful determinants of how individuals respond to change. It shapes perception, behavior, and long-term outcomes. And there is another model also in the book. It's very interesting. It talks about a change reaction, how our people react to change. The first reaction is denial. When individuals ignore or even reject the need for change, then they will start the resistance, you know. So you might see some emotional reactions such as fear, anger, frustration. There will be some negative attitude. You will see some negative emotions intensify, motivation decreases. Then they will go into some sort of exploration. They might be able to consider new possibilities. Then they go to the true responsibility, when they accept the change and they accept ownership to begin taking action. And finally, when they commit. Here, full engagement and alignment with the change happen and occur. So to have a positive change, we need to create the right conditions. People are more likely to embrace change when they believe it is necessary. Perceived legitimacy reduces their resistance. They start to trust leadership. So your own credibility as a leader influences acceptance of your people. When your people are involved, so participation increases ownership and accountability. So get them involved. And also make it clear what are the personal benefits for them. So alignment with self-interest drives engagement. So as leaders, we must actively shape attitudes through communication, involvement, and leading by example. Now let's move to burnout. First, what is burnout? Burnout is a state of physical and psychological and emotional exhaustion. It occurs when demands exceed our capacity to cope over time. And we don't just start feeling burned out. There is some sort of progression. We start with enthusiasm, high energy, optimism, then things start to slow down. Our personal energy starts to decline a little bit. Our motivation weakens. Then we reach stagnation. And this is very, very frustrating stage. Our frustration increases, and of course it will impact our performance, and our performance becomes inconsistent. And this leads to the final stage, which breaks the person and the performance, when we reach emotional exhaustion. Emotional exhaustion leads to disengagement and poor performance. And of course, there are several reasons. One of the most common one is excessive workload. Overload leads to fatigue, not only physical fatigue, but also mental fatigue, which reduces effectiveness. Also, lack of control. When our people feel powerless, they feel stressed. And misalignment. When values and work do not align. When this happens, our own motivation declines. And because I mentioned stress, so let's talk a little bit about stress and how stress impacts performance. Again, there are a lot of research done on stress, and they found that moderate stress enhances focus and performance. So we need the right dose of stress. Too much stress, on the other hand, leads to burnout, and of course, this decreases our productivity. But also, too little stress leads to boredom and low engagement, and people become disengaged and they will leave. Yeah, they will leave when there is too much stress. They will leave when there is too little stress. So, burnout is often systemic rather than individual. You know, stress might be individual. And as leaders, we need to address root causes, not just symptoms. So our responsibility is huge. And our responsibility becomes our personal resilience and our organization resilience as well. So as a leader, you need to clarify expectations, because clear direction reduces ambiguity and stress and uncertainty. You need to balance workload for yourself and for others. You need to prevent overload, because this is the core of stability. Also, you need to foster belonging. When you build strong relationships in the workplace, you will improve resilience. You need to provide support. You need to be accessible, responsive, eliminate any challenges, not any challenges, but there are challenges that hinder the performance of your employees. You need to eliminate these. Also, you need to involve your people, because participation increases engagement and ownership. So, do we need to eliminate stress? No, not 100%, but we need to manage stress. So effective leaders demonstrate commitment. So you need to remain dedicated even under pressure and show your employees that you are doing this. You need to maintain your control. You need to maintain composure and your ability to take sound decisions. You need to maintain your positive attitude, because your optimism will support resilience. You need also to balance, to know how to manage multiple demands effectively. You need also to build strong relationships, to create support systems that can enhance coping capacity of your people. So to lead effectively, again, you need, especially through change. Here my focus is through change. You need to guide change, not only manage change. No, you need to guide change strategically by ensuring clarity, communication, and alignment. You need to support your people emotionally. So start by addressing fears. Talk about stress, talk about resistance. Also, you need to build systems that enable long-term success, so you can sustain performance through the change. So leadership, and effective leadership is not about forcing outcomes. No, it's about enabling our people to succeed even under pressure. The most effective leaders do not just deliver results. They create environments where people can adapt, perform, and remain resilient over time.